Okay, let's get into the action items. Actionable takeaways that listeners can take with them after this episode that they can use to improve how they live these values. And number one, as is very consistent with a lot of sports psychology skills, is awareness. So building the awareness of your values. You cannot live your values if you're trying to live 30 different values because they're all great. You have to do the tough work of narrowing down this big list or deciding what 2, 3, maximum of 5 values really resonate with you that you want to try and live out every day. Anything to add there, Liz, in how somebody can build that awareness of their values?
I think the list is a great way to go, but one thing that you said, Gabe, is kind of just taking a natural observation too over time. Maybe before you even tackle a list, you're looking at, all right, what came up in practice today? Any values, anything I would call a value? And maybe you'll see some congruency when you do tackle a list after that. But I think natural exploration and a list is a great way to grow that awareness.
And then after you have this small list of important values, you can start using them and living them. And what you'll need to do throughout this process is track the effectiveness of this value, because it's not going to be helping you that much if you aren't feeling much better after reminding yourself to live in alignment with this value, or you're still feeling a lot of stress and tension even after this reminder. So do some type of journaling system where maybe you rate each day how it felt to live in alignment with value A, and then the next day is value B. Have some type of system where you are understanding, okay, how am I doing? How is this value doing? Anything else there, Liz?
I think that's great. That's a great way to reflect. And I think, again, just getting so specific with it of maybe here's tangible ways that I can try to practice this value in practice today. Or after the fact, I can give instances, specific instances where I lived out this value, really having it be something that's not so broad, but you can point to it was used in this moment is a great way to track the effectiveness too.
And then another way to make this values work much more impactful is scattering reminders for yourself to keep living in alignment with these values, because although we are making it sound like it's the most important thing of all time, right now, you're going to forget to have these values at the front of your brain, especially in the beginning. So different types of reminders are having something written on your equipment bag, or drawing a picture that represents a value on your equipment or somewhere that you can look at constantly throughout practices, games, or like if you're at work, something on your desk. Any other ways of reminders, Liz, that people can constantly do to keep those values at the front of their attention?
Yeah, I think a couple could be, using a teammate, using a coach as a reminder. They can be an auditory reminder of, hey, how are you doing with this value today? I think another thing, which we're kind of relying on our brain a little bit here, but maybe at a certain point that you can count on for every single game, for every single practice, whether it's halftime, whether it's at the tip off at the start of the game, a certain point that you can count on being a cue for right now. I'm going to remind myself of how I want to practice value ABC today. So using people as reminders, using moments that you can for sure count on that day as reminders, and then those visual reminders. I think you're set up for success with all of those.
I love the idea of using certain times in games and practices as checking in with your values, and like the beginning of a game, checking in with, okay, how can I live in alignment with my value of courage in this game? That's so important and impactful.
Yeah,
And
I
that's,
want to jump in real quick
yeah,
too. I've seen this work really well with athletes is coming up with acronyms that show all of their values. And this is something that's funny as a mental performance coach because I don't necessarily want to make the acronym, but sometimes I feel like that's best to take all of the values they've said. And I've seen athletes get pretty silly with it. I don't remember all of the values, but one athlete's was SHPLAT, SHPLAT. And he said that was the one thing that he will remember forever from our work together is to remind himself of splat every time he's up to take a free throw. So acronyms are a great way to bring them all together too.
perfect. Love it. I love acronyms. So good point there. And why I love this idea of planning to check in with your values at certain points of your games is because it's similar to this last action item I have here as plan to respond to adversity with values. So planning to respond to a mistake or a turnover with curiosity and having that as a system that is prepared to act to dampen the negative effect that these turnovers, bad shifts might have.
Yeah, and just knowing that by planning that, you are growing your confidence so much to go into a game and say, when failure comes up, when a mistake comes up, I can almost look at it and say, I was expecting you. I have a plan for you. The confidence I feel even just saying that is so good. So know that the work that you're doing to plan is also work you're doing to grow your own confidence.